So welcome to my video. My wrists hurt when I put weight through them. What can I do about it? So I wanted to do this just to give some of you the opportunity to maybe try some techniques to see if you can get the weight bearing to be any more comfortable when you're in your positions where we've actually got weight through the hands, because it's so important that we try to utilize those strengthening exercises for strengthening of the long bones of the arms and also for the shoulder, and then just by extension the rest of the body. So there's a few things that we can do without any of these tools, which is simply to kind of look at the alignment of the wrist and the positioning and maybe even the muscle activation of the wrist. So it's very similar to what I would talk about normally in our foot positions when we're standing. So if we start with that, in an ideal world, we're going to spread the hands. So this is all about spreading the base of support. And we're going to look at the alignment, and there's some controversy over which direction the fingers should point. So I've heard some hand balancing experts, I should add, talk about the index finger being the vertical line or the straight line. And I've heard others talk about the middle finger. And I think in an ideal world, maybe it would be the middle finger. But I think certainly some of us have got tightness where we're a little bit dominant on one side. This is certainly the case for me. And that might mean that if we use the middle finger, for example, there might be a little bit of tension. That means when we get the pressure going through it, we end up sort of torsioning the hand, which is what happens to me on my right limb. So in that case, it may be for some people, we're better to consider taking the index finger forward. I mean, there's no genuine reason why we couldn't, in some of these weight bearing positions, turn the hands even further round if that were more comfortable, as long as we're still spreading that base of support, because what we're doing is getting this nice opening through the shoulder. So you could play around with that and see if that makes anything more comfortable. Now the other thing is the activation of the hand. So what we don't really want to do here is weight bear on a soggy flat hand, because all the pressure is going to stop at the wrist there, and the hand just becomes sort of an inert object at the end of it there, and it should be active. So it's worth sort of considering, once you've decided which line up you're going to take, actually just practicing strengthening up the muscles of the hands a little bit, so that then the weight comes down to the wrist, it then spreads through the roots of your hands. So that's something else that you might want to practice doing in order to strengthen the hands up to support the wrists when you're doing exercises like that. And you might do that as a standalone exercise if you've got wrist problems. The other issue we can sometimes find is that because weight bearing through our wrists requires an end range position at the wrist, basically we're practically in a full extension for a lot of people. I've got reasonably stretchy wrists, so I can take it past the 90 degree, but you know, a lot of people that's the last bit of movement they've got. So you could practice just mobilizing the wrists and seeing if you can get them to loosen up a bit, but equally some people might have had a fracture and maybe there's a block that isn't going to let them get that wrist extension. So in those cases, what you might have to do is use a fist position. So this would be just basically what we call a hoof position, which can work quite nicely. Again, you just got to make sure that you're really connecting up from the fingers to the wrist to the shoulder and elbow complex as you do it. But a lot of people might adopt that one in between, putting it through, just so that their wrist gets a little bit more of a neutral weight bearing line through it. So that's possible and as well. So those are the sort of options that we can take without investing any money into any other tools and things. Now, if we start investing in things, my little tip that I'm going to start patenting is taking a good pair of solid foam flip-flops, and if you place, so you would normally put the heel of your foot in there, but what we're going to do is put the heel of the hand in there. So with these, heel of the hand goes in, so the fingers spread out then, and what we've created is this nice little air pocket underneath where we can then send that pressure down to the roots of the hand. And again, just takes that pressure from the fingers being level to the fingers being slightly lower. So it takes a little bit of pressure off the wrist And I think, I mean, I can tell the difference when and I've used this myself a couple of times when I've been doing lots of hand balance work and I've just wanted to give my wrist a bit of a break. And I found it to be really comfortable and really helpful for switching on strengthening through my hand. So that's that's my top tip, okay? I've yet to find anybody else that's as excited about using the heel of their flip-flops as I am, but worth a try. Other options you've got are the wedges that we can get hold of. So I bought a couple of these so that I can show you. So I've got one that has obviously just been chopped up and one that is nice and long. So you could use both hands on the long one, and you'd need 2 of these for if you use the short one. So I quite like this as well. So this is actually really useful if you have that block where you haven't got full extension and you need to have, you know, a less of an angle there. So these are quite useful for that. Now I'm not quite sure whether you are supposed to use it this way around, but personally I think it works better this way around. So that is with this long flat slide coming down rather than with this little narrow strip to lean on. So yeah, so I think that just sort of ends up putting a little bit of a pressure point through certain parts of the wrist, whereas here we can spread it a bit and then still have the weight travelling down through the fingers. So I quite like that. And again, what it creates is this ability to send pressure through the long bones of the fingers and distribute weight. So I quite like this as well. This is a nice way to take some pressure off the wrists themselves. Now you could, some people that have had fractures but still want to be able to work through it, that's still not enough lift for them, and I think you could probably get 2 of these or 2 of these and put it underneath and make it an even bigger wedge position, and I think you'll probably get away with using that as well. So that would just tip you up even further, so I've got even less wedge there, and I think we will still be able to get away with a beneficial weight bearing position and contact with the rest of the body just by using that. So those are some of the things that we can use for that. The other thing that you can do, you can get the little parallel bars. So these are bigger ones, but you can get the little ones that would just mean you can use a grip hold with it. So basically that just means that you will hold on off the ground, but in this more grip. I guess if you've got some dumbbells or something at home, you could have a similar thing like this, only these will roll if you're not careful. So but there's lots of options out there, but you could try something like that as well to just see if it gives you some different options for your wrists. So there's quite a lot of options you can try out there for your wrists, and again it just comes down to trying to build up tolerance and capacity through your joints. Don't always sort of say, well, something hurts so I won't do it. Perhaps it needs some specific gentle and progressive encouragement. So see how you get with these, and if you like any of them in particular, please do message me and let me know, because it's great for me to then say, oh, there's a few people have found this helpful. So I hope you have found something useful in this video. Even if you haven't got wrist problems, there's some useful things to try there. And I'll see you in another video.